All right, next up on our preview series for Thursday night's college basketball action, we've got Texas Tech on the road against the Butler Bulldogs. You may be wondering to yourself, why are we previewing this game? I'm excited for this game. I think we've gotten some comments on our channel that are just like, why are these Big Ten guys doing this? Well, we want to cover the whole country, but also like I kind of sneakily like both of these teams. And I think they both kind of have the reputation right now as ugly basketball teams you don't necessarily want to recreationally watch. I disagree based on what we've seen. Both of these teams had a fantastic feast week. Butler comes away with 2 neutral site wins against top 100 opponents. They beat Penn State by 10, then they beat Boise State by 14. They played Florida Atlantic extremely tough, by the way, before Florida Atlantic started blowing everybody out. And then on the Texas Tech side of things, obviously I'm familiar with this. They just put my Michigan Wolverines in a stranglehold for 40 minutes and survived against Northern Iowa the game before. So I'm impressed with where both these teams are at. They're both trending in an upward direction right now. And I think whoever wins this game is going to suddenly feel like really good about themselves. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, first looking at Butler and considering how bad last year was, I think we forget that Mata is still a really good coach. I think the question was going to be whether or not he had the roster that can compete. And then speaking of Big Ten, his best player so far is a former Michigan State Spartan, and Pierre Brooks, and he's been absolutely fantastic for them. DJ Davis and Posh Alexander are perfectly fine backcourt. They fairly small team, but they still rebound well. They shoot well. They defend perfectly fine. And the fact that they could take out a Penn State team, who I think wants to play similar to Penn State, sort of bodes well for what they can do in this game. And if nothing else, I think Butler clearly deserves to be nowhere near the tier of DePaul and Georgetown for the bottom end of the Big East. I think the question is, should we put them in the St. John's, Providence, Seton Hall tier of teams that can be sneaky tournament contenders?
Yeah, I think we can. I feel so weird saying that, but like I think that's where I'm at with this team. I trust them. And I think you're right for calling out Thad. I trust Thad Matta. Like I just think this guy's a good coach. And last year, year one in the portal era, things are going to be a little wild. You never know what your roster is going to look like. I thought Thad had some pieces, but they never gelled. And quite frankly, some of his most important pieces were guys that had a foot out the door that knew they were not going to be on the Butler roster come this season. Now he's got some guys that I think were his choice in here, and they look like a cohesive basketball team. And Posh Alexander's a guy, I don't think he's played his best basketball yet this season. He's only averaging 10 a game, only shooting 25% from 3. But he is a guy I trust. Like, he's a vetty guard who I can see going toe-to-toe with serious teams and serious defenders like Texas Tech has. And I feel good that he's on my side in those games, even if he's not our best player. I think he's a guy who his presence alone makes a guy like Pierre Brooks better. You're right. Pierre looks great right now. Michigan State could use a guy like Pierre Brooks right now, but this is their strongest test yet, though, right? Like, as much as we're praising these Butler guards and the 4-headed backcourt that's in double digits right now, they have not played a defense nearly as stifling as Texas Tech.
No, in Texas, obviously, for those who don't know, Grant McCasland was the architect as one of the top defenses in the country past few years in North Texas, has sort of brought that same style of Texas Tech with really good athletes, a bunch of guards who are 6'4" to 6'7" that can switchable, defend. I mean, Joe Toussaint, who was part of that late West Virginia exodus this offseason, he was someone that wasn't an elite guard when he came out of Iowa or even West Virginia last year, but he's having his best offensive year yet, leading the team and scoring around 15 a game. And Pop Isaacs, who hit the game-winning shot in the Badlands tournament. They're a really good team with balance and defense, and they're going to compete in the Big 12. I do wonder how they'll do against, better offenses, but they're a team that I think matches up fairly well with Butler, and I think this is going to be an even game and probably one of the closer ones in the Big 12 Big East Challenge.
Yeah, it should be fun. And I mentioned, I don't think Butler's seen a defense as good as Texas Tech. They've seen one close, and that's Michigan State's defense. Michigan State currently 7th in the country on KenPom. Texas Tech actually behind them on KenPom, 13th in the country. I still feel by the end of the season, McCasland's team is going to end up ranked higher. That's why I'm giving them the mental boost, whether or not that's hate or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But the point is, Butler offense didn't look like the Butler offense in that Michigan State game, right? They struggled, only 54 points. I thought they did generate some decent looks, but only 7 for 25 from 3. So I think we do have a little bit of a precedent on like, maybe worry here a little bit. But at the same time, this is Texas Tech's first true road game under McCaslin. We don't know what that's going to look like. I like their personnel, but I'm really like, unless they can bully ball you, I don't think they have a ton offensively. Like, is there anything Butler should really be worried about from the Texas Tech offense here?
I mean, outside of Pop Isaacs having an efficient shooting game, I mean that's been one of his weaknesses, that he can give you 20 points, but sometimes in 17 shots. The Texas Tech offense isn't going to blow you out as long as you yourself can score. But I would also say, too, when it came to that Michigan State result, everyone expected that blowout to happen. Michigan State was angry. Butler, I think, was still finding itself. That battle for Atlanta's tournament, I think, gave them a ton of confidence, because all 3 games they played were very good. Even the FAU result, who clearly they played them better than anyone else. I think that Butler, these guys feel a lot more confident, and that they should expect at home to beat Texas Tech. I think you're now at a point where, hey, we could be a tournament team, and if we're going to do that, then this is the kind of game we need to win. I don't think they expected to beat Michigan State. I think they knew that they were walking into an angry trap, and the result played as it is. But I think if Butler can sort of have an early lead and continue to build that confidence, there's no reason why they can't survive what will be a tough physical game. They have tough physical guards too. I mean, Posh Alexander is one of the better perimeter defenders in the country, and if he shuts down Isaac, so I think he'll probably put on him, then it will be hard for the Raiders to find some offense.
All right, so it sounds like you're leaning towards Butler. Is that a fair assumption? Is that your pick here?
Yeah, I'm going with Butler.
Okay. I'm going Texas Tech. I don't know. I like both these teams. That's the thing. I don't think this is going to significantly alter my view of either of them. But I think I'm more impressed with what Texas Tech did last week than I am Butler beating Penn State and Boise. I don't think Penn State's good at all. They've now lost 3 straight, all by double digits. Like, you can map it. The performance just result-wise is similar to what Texas A&M and VCU did to Penn State. Texas A&M is really good. VCU, I don't know. I'm just more impressed with what Texas Tech did to Michigan, honestly. And maybe that's the Michigan fan of me talking, but that was a game where, like, 3 minutes into the game, you're like, oh, yeah, Texas Tech has us, and it's over. I don't think Butler's done that to anybody yet. I don't think this Butler offense, quite frankly, is good enough to avoid Texas Tech doing that. If they show up the same way they did against Michigan defensively, I think it could be a long night where maybe the first time this season, Butler's kind of looking around at each other like, wait a second, this isn't working. And I like McCaslin. I know it's early, but I think McCaslin's going to be really, really good. And I think he's up for the challenge against Thad Matta here. So give me Texas Tech on the money line. Give me Texas Tech to win the game. That's Tristan Freeman from Busting Brackets. I'm GregWaddell from Sleepers Media. If you want to see all of our recaps and previews for every big game this college basketball season, subscribe to the Sleepers Media YouTube channel.